Welcome to the political space, and I'm glad we are starting the 2026. I wish you all your plans and everything that you are set for 2026, you achieve them. Put in the effort and see that you are progressing so well. And it's such a great honor that as we begin the 2026 here on political space, we are hosting someone, a seasoned lawyer and a politician and a businessman. It's such a great start for the year. Mr. Kelvin Fube Bwalya.
Kelvin Fube Bwalya.
Okay. So thank you so much. We are honored to host you on political
Nice to have you,
space.
Mr. Zulu.
Thank you
Welcome.
so much. Sure.
Thank you.
You have a beautiful office.
No, it's a small library. But we read from here.
Okay. Interesting. So just to begin the year.
Yes.
It's 2026 and it's an election year. How are we feeling with the year?
Oh, the year feels good, feels great. First of all, allow me to congratulate the Tonse Alliance on its victory via the Chawama by-elections. Our Mr. Bright Nundwe, the candidate under FDD, our special purpose vehicle, has fared very well.
Okay.
We have smashed the myth that the ruling party cannot be beaten at an election.
How were you so organized? Tonse Alliance, you are kind of disintegrated. This time around, how were you so united to fight?
Well, the goodness is when you understand elections and you know what to do, we got rid of some confusion, some mistrust, a lot of background noise. We focused. Is this pointing out to say now as Tonse, you are really Tonse? Or we are not yet Tonse? No, we are Tonse now.
Okay.
Yes, and we are moving to ensure that the Zambians get the direction they've been craving for. I think the cry from the Zambians has been that we get united. The cry has been that we come together and forge a direction without confusion, without treachery, without backstabbing, and we've managed to do that in the last few weeks. So we're very happy to inform the Zambians, your viewers, that they can expect much more from Tonse now.
But the margin between the ruling and the opposition,
yes.
6,000, 8,000, it's not so much.
No, it is.
Okay.
In a by-election. Oh, that's great.
Okay.
If you've run elections as much as I have, you know that's very good.
Well, I'm someone born in the 90s, so I haven't run.
Yeah, you Gen Zs are like that. But we who have been running elections understand that in a by-election, first of all, there's not so many people voting. If you look at the general population of Chawama and the kind of turnout that was there, it wasn't much. But it was enough to send a message. And I think the UPND now must be answering a few questions from their boss and answering them quite loudly.
So how are you celebrating the victory in Chawama?
Oh, I've sent my team there.
Okay.
I'm here talking to you.
Okay. That's good.
They're doing a road show.
Okay.
So we're having a good time.
All right.
We're very happy.
So just to start the conversation today, just a brief background, your political background. We are so much interested in your political background. I know you've talked much about your business aspect, your professional aspect. When did you start politics and how was it at the beginning?
I was born in a political family. My late father was a politician. He was, at those days, of course, a freedom fighter like many Unipists. Under Wakaunda, Wakapwepwe, Mainza Chona, Grey Zulu, those eminent sons of this soil that we have lost. But at some time, my father also separated from UNIP and went their separate ways under UPP. They followed Wakapwepwe. You know, when Wakaunda was trying to get the nation united, he introduced what they termed as the one-party participatory democracy. That didn't sit very well. This was after the Choma Declaration. And people started pushing for multi-party to come back. But Wakaunda felt at that time it wasn't ripe, so we needed to be together as a country.
So was it working out at that time? You felt it wasn't
no, it didn't work out. Kaunda was a strong man. The preservation of public security visited my father and his colleagues quite a bit. They were arrested numerous times, and they were pushed to ends sometimes accused of offenses they didn't commit. I didn't grow up with my father much.
Okay.
He was in and out of prison because of politics.
So has it changed since the time of UNIP up to where we are?
It changed under Bachiluba and Bamwanawasa, under RB and Basata, including to some extent under ECL, Edgar Chagolungu. Right now, we have more or less squeezed the political space because of the fears that the UPND have against opposition.
They have fears?
They have a lot of fears. I mean, we've got a man in State House who is afraid of his own shadow, and he's introduced a lot of laws which are fixing people. The freedom of speech that we enjoyed under the MMD, for instance, is not there now. This seditious practice. If you know anything about sedition laws, historically, they were meant to frighten, intimidate citizens, okay, not to speak against the government or political figures.
Okay.
They cover that and make it seem like they're trying to promote unity. But in essence, they're sending a message. If you cross this line, we'll get you. So the cyber laws are meant to do that. The electronic acts which have come in, the president pretended to say he has removed the defamation of the president from the criminal side of things. But the seditious laws are more or less the same things. Okay. So you can't speak against the president openly as much as you want.
So you're a seasoned lawyer.
Yes.
What do you really think is wrong with these successive governments that have come in power in Zambia?
Well, I think for the particular government that we have now, my observation is they didn't have a plan. They were not ready, and especially their leader. He seems to have had this grandiose illusion that he was going to be in opposition for the rest of his life. So he wasn't ready. And when he won the elections, I think it was a surprise. It was a bigger surprise to him than you and I. Okay. Yeah, he didn't realize that the Zambians wanted change in 2021. So when power was given to him, he didn't know what to do with it. Mm-hmm. Hence the confusion we're faced up with economically, socially, politically, and otherwise.
Okay, we'll come to that now. You're joining politics.
Yes.
How was it?
I joined politics for the first time, having seen my father go in jail so many times. I almost said, I don't want to do politics. But when Bachiluba and the MMD began to push the agenda,
the second term,
I thought, okay, now is the time. I was a young lawyer at the time working for Chifumo Banda and Associates. And at our chambers then, we began to receive visitations from Bachiluba, late Christian Tembo, Brigadier General Mianda, Bodwin Kumbula, Kashambatwa, Bikustelewanika, and the rest. Benny Mwinga, Joshua Lumina, to name but a few. Those were prominent people that I used to see. Humphrey Mlemba, and they used to consult us as lawyers then and still. So we began to join the legal team of the MMD. Then obviously we were learning from the ropes and the elbows of State Counsel Eric Silwamba, State Counsel Vincent Malambo at the time, State Counsel Bonaventure Mutale. Those were the peers we were with in the legal fraternity to help fight the UNIP government at the time and protect the members of the MMD who were being harassed by the regime at the time. So that's how I began now to see up close and personal and be in meetings to understand and learn what it is to change government, to plan strategically how to win elections, how to raise funds, how to meet people, how to interact.
Okay.
So there were a lot of
happens,
midnight meetings. Okay. When you are sleeping, that's when we wake up.
Okay.
Just when you realize that we are not going to be attacking, Bwana, we are attacking.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now your first day that today you've decided you'll be a politician.
It was then.
Okay, it was then.
It was then.
What happened at that particular night?
I think late Benny Mwinga, who was Mazabuka MP, was a very good friend of mine. and he was supposed to be kicked out of parliament. And we had to get an injunction for him.
Okay.
And he came to my home and said, Wadala, we might lose our seats with the Joshua Lumina, who was Chikankata MP. And I said, what's going on? He says, no, these are the issues. We have got intel and things. So I called my boss, State Council Fube Bwalya. This is what's happening. He says, you know what to do. So the next day they came to the chambers and
the injunction.
Yes.
What happens? Just explain to a layman like me. The injunction, like there's this happening, then you get an injunction. Is it to prolong the activity, or is to turn the...
It's to block something from happening.
Okay.
In this case, they were supposed to be expelled from the House as MPs for UNIP. But, you know, we got that injunction to help them remain in Parliament, but also to ensure that their rights were not abrogated. Because remember, by the time President Kaunda had signed off section or Article 4 of the Constitution then to have it repealed and reintroduce multi-party politics, it meant that people could cross the floors.
Okay.
The Constitution then did not provide for rules of engagement. So they decided, hey, we're joining MMD.
Okay.
Then UNIP said, no, you can't join. But this is a multi-party state.
Okay.
So we had to test the Constitution at the time, which we did.
So here we are. You have your own party, Zambia Must Prosper.
Yes.
What's ideology, your party?
Well, we are basically a Christian democratic party. And we have an incline of a socialist incline. We want to believe that we must protect the poor and look after the poor. We are not saying that we cannot move into capitalism. We cannot use the principles of capitalism to run our businesses, no. But the poorest of the poor must be taken care of. And the nation must move together. We must never leave people behind. And that is our view.
Okay. Like, would you provide specific examples of your experience and qualifications that make you a better leader or candidate?
I don't like comparing myself to other people, so I'll just talk about myself.
Talk about you.
Let me say that from my childhood days, I have always been interested in social affairs. When I was growing up in Muflira, I was in the drama club. I was in the debating club. I was a cadet. I was into sports. So I had a lot of socializing to do and engagements to get with friends. But like I said, my father had this political line and he kept getting arrested. So it always pushed me. But from that angle, when I became a lawyer and got interested in politics, I realized that I needed to get a bit more closer to power. I wanted to understand what is this thing called power and how it can be used. But I also learned by watching, observing, watching what Wachiluba did, watching what late Patrick Manawasa did, what Barupia Banda did, and then up close and personal with King Cobra Sata. It became he used to visit me here.
Okay. And
I used to visit him at his home. And same for ECL. So when you get into that space, you begin to think, okay, this is how political decisions are made. And like I said to you earlier, most decisions are made at night. What you see in the day,
okay. So
no, you can't sleep.
Okay.
And for us, speaking about my personal qualifications as such, well, I'm quite experienced in terms of the education, the knowledge I've gained from the various presidents. You don't necessarily, leadership, might I add, leadership is not about a position. I've heard some of my friends claim that leadership is because they've been a councillor, they've been a mayor, they've been a minister, they've been a chakuti. That's not leadership. That's a position.
Okay.
No.
But isn't that good experience?
It's good experience, but you can be a leader with bad experience. Leadership is about character. Leadership is about you and what you gain out of the experiences that come across to you and how you learn from that and how you want to impact other people when you've gained that knowledge. So that character that you build is very important in building you and me for the next generation.
So how do you respond to critics that your political ambitions are basically about personal gain, not necessarily
personal gain? No. Let me give you an example. In 2002, somewhere there, when we started working for Wasata, okay, my office, my legal office was at E.W. Tarry in town. Wasata was at Farmer's House. We were diagonally opposite each other. And I never wanted to gain any favors from Wasata. No. I would have asked for a position, but I didn't. I knew that Wasata had enough people around him. And we agreed, no positions, but I worked in the background. If I was a greedy person, I would have said, hey, I've done this. I need something. I didn't. ECO came along. I never asked for a position. He did offer me a position, but I said, no, I'm not ready. I helped the current president to get into office. I never asked him for a position. That's not greed. No, that is selflessness. You're giving yourself to help people. There are people who, once they give you a favor, do you a favor, they claim something. I've seen that happen.
Okay.
So it's not about greed. For me, it's about service. I want to help people.
So how do you answer those that accuse you to say you've worked with different parties, but later on you turn against them or the other way around?
I haven't turned against anybody. For example, under PF, people seem to forget this fact. I was expelled from PF. I didn't turn against PF. PF didn't want me.
For some reasons?
And the reason they didn't want me is simply because I told the late 6th Republican President, Edgar Chagwa Lungu, that according to me, him running in 2021 was a third term. And I said, as a lawyer, I can't support this. Remember, I was chairman of elections. So I was planning the strategies for winning elections for the PF. But I said, I can't do this because it goes against my principles. So I didn't turn against PF. They turned against me. Because on principle, I said I couldn't do what they were asking me to do. When I went to help Aga in the HLM, I didn't join UPND. No, we were in an alliance. I went to the UPND alliance to help Aga in the HLM. But also, more or less to say to the PF, what you're doing is wrong. Let's not flout the Constitution easily. So when they lost, it wasn't my fault.
So you mean the ECO running in 2021 wasn't constitutional?
According to me, I believed at the time. And I can sit here proudly and tell you, and I think the Zambians will agree with me, on the 10th of December 2024, the Constitutional Court reversed that ruling and they agreed with me. Things I had said in 2019, 2020, 2021 when they expelled me, the Constitutional Court agreed with me. They said, no, that's the third term.
So what's your political ideology really? Because you move from this party, you don't agree with what we do.
It's not like I move. If you're expelled, what do?
You don't reconcile?
Reconcile with who?
With the party?
No. The PF at the time was on a downward trend. I could see it. What was there to reconcile? Didn't they lose power in 2021? So what was there to be reconciled with?
Yeah, so this is a political space, and interestingly, this year, the first episode of the year, which is the third episode of the political space, we are talking to Kelvin Fube Bwalya,
correct,
popularly known as KBF. And then, like others or people would say, you are detached to the realities of the people in the communities. In you as a politician, you are detached from there. Are you really connected to the people, the grassroots people out there?
Zulu, you don't get to run elections for a party if you're disconnected from the people. I'll give you an example. When Wasata died and ECO called me to go and help him, first of all, to win his candidature, and then to run his elections between 2015 and 2016, I had to go on the ground. I traversed this country. I went and met the structures. Is that a person who's detached from reality? Is that a person who's detached from the ground? No. I am a very much a hands-on person.
Okay.
When I began to sow the seeds for Zambia Must Prosper, I went around this country. I know the corners of this country.
Okay.
I can tell you, for instance, the distances between this town and that town and that
That's
town
easy.
in the provinces.
Okay.
No, you may not know.
Okay.
I know, because I've traveled. If I tell you that between Solwezi and Chavuma, the distance is 500 and Chakuti kilometers, you'll be telling me, how do you know? I've been there. Okay. Have you been there? No, you haven't.
God, this is information that you've been there.
No. You have to traverse. But if I tell you which towns you meet in between, you may not know. I know. From Solwezi to Mwinilunga, you may not know.
So what are the main concerns or the main problems that a grassroots person is facing out there?
Right now?
Yeah.
Poverty, hunger, bad economy, poor education for our children under the UPND, so-called free education, lies from the political space of the UPND, broken promises, and more importantly, the lack of employment for our youths, which is a big problem for us coming into leadership. If you've got a population as young as Zambia, which is 82.2% being youth, and those people don't have employment, you have a problem as a government, because you're not planning for those people. So, our statistics tell us, for instance, Wazulu, 375,000 kids are poured onto the Zambian streets from grade 7, grade 9, grade 12, colleges and universities per annum. Who's swallowing that? What business, what industries do we have? What agricultural industries do we have? What manufacturing base do we have? So we need to move from a position of understanding the statistics and converting that into working capital. This is young capital, labor, and you must know how to use it, how to employ it. Zambian labor is one of the cheapest around the region, but we don't know how to use it. Zambia Must Prosper has a philosophy. We call it every youth at school or at work. So those who we believe are academically gifted, let them go and be the professionals of tomorrow.
How?
They are the lawyers, the doctors, the engineers, the accountants, the scientists, the agriculturists, etc., the bankers, the teachers. Okay? But at school or at work means the talent that you have now. Or at work. Football is work. Patson Daka plays for Leicester City. That's work. Fashion Sakala plays in the Saudi League. That's work. So you improve the infrastructure to improve that talent. Mark 2, Chef 187, Richie Bees, those are musicians. We must improve the infrastructure to make sure that their music gets to sell. You understand where I'm going? So it's the infrastructure section. The drama, the section of drama, excuse me, DSTV has given a platform for Zambia to produce content so that they can sell it on DSTV. Why are we not improving that? Look at what's happening to Nollywood. In Nigeria, this has become blockbuster business. So all these areas need infrastructure. As a thinking government, you plan. So those who are artistically given talent, improve the infrastructure and push them.
So, because each government that's in power has got their own priorities.
Yes.
In this case, Zambia Must Prosper if you've got a chance to go in power.
Yeah.
What are your priorities?
There are 5 priority areas as a government. 1, the energy sector.
Okay.
We have to deal with the energy sector and solve this problem once and for all. Without energy, there will be no production.
Okay.
Energy comes in the form of petroleum. 2, electrical power. Without these 2, no industry runs, no buses run, no taxis run, nothing runs.
But are we having a fuel challenge in terms of maybe transportation in Zambia currently?
The pricing.
The pricing?
The price of the fuel. Where we source it from, who's bringing it here, and what taxes we're putting on the fuel. That's a problem. Okay. That's going to affect the cost of production. So energy is number 1. Number 2, infrastructure. There is no country in the world that would develop without clean, good, modern infrastructure. What we're doing now, this is infrastructure. So you require a lot of towers for communication purposes. Road network. You need to improve our roads. We need to improve our rail systems. We need to improve our housing.
Israel transport still feasible in 21st century?
It is. It is. And you need it much more than the roads. Why? It can carry more cargo. It's important. So this infrastructure element also carries the element of new housing units, new schools, new hospitals, etc., new universities. We need that.
Okay.
3, our agriculture sector, which is the biggest employer for the Zambians. We need to improve the lives of our small-scale farmers. 90 to 98% of our food security is made by the small-scale farmers. These are the people the UPND government is troubling today. These are the people who are not being paid. These are the people who produce our food security today, and they have not been paid. They go and collect their crops, but they're not. I haven't finished. Number 4, our mining sector. We are generally a mining company historically. I mean, a country historically. But we have to relook at our mining. Who's benefiting from our minerals? Do we know how much copper we produce, how much we sell it for, how much gold, how much lithium, how much cobalt? All these things. If you look at the geography and the geological reports coming out, if we know the value of what God has given us under this earth, we shouldn't be in this situation as Zambia. Our last one is small-scale industries. These 5 pillars will give us offshoots.
Okay. So you're talking about from the inside point of view, Zambia's point of view. Don't you, aren't you considering the external factors, the internal global market, on how they influence what's happening at a particular time in the country?
Let me tell you, if you've studied Singapore and how it developed, if you studied how China developed, the first thing you do as a country is you build from within. What the Chinese did, for example, what the Singaporeans did, is very simple. They went underground. You don't have to announce what you're doing. Concentrate on what you have first. A bird in a hand is better than 2 in the bush.
So are we on a good trajectory as a country? Right?
Not with the UPND government, I'm sorry to say. We need a fresh breath of thinking.
Well, is it fair to accuse the current government, considering that Zambia is been running itself since 1964 and there have become different governments in power?
Do you know the biggest indictment against the UPND?
Tell me.
They were in opposition for over 20 years. We expected better planning. You don't stay on the sidelines for over 20 years. You're watching the various presidents come and go, and you want to get into government, and then your government perform at this rate. Excuse me, Vazulu. It's not fair on the Zambians. It is not fair.
And others would argue to say no country has developed economically through agriculture itself, and also mining. Well, would say these are our minerals, but we sell them out there. So, like, how are you going to address the concerns for external stakeholders, people that are coming to invest, considering that Zambia as a country, we don't have the muscle to invest in these mines ourselves?
2 corrections there. There are some countries that have developed wholly on agriculture, and they survive. It's a question of how you manage it. Number 2 correction. The people that come to buy our minerals in this country and take our minerals out, the first question we must ask ourselves is, why do they come? They need what we have. Lazulu tuchite swine. Chimuno kwa tulefu akagero. Uleka lansha, uleka zembe, uleka fidia. Mwaikata? Kagero kale kuma ubufi. Walwisha kale kutoba fyama jenk nefya shala. Gayo umbi aisa kasompola. Why? Dimbi manifesto yako na ilo watefi. Ukuchile yenu. Mwaikata? So kuchinjama tactics. What am I saying? The people that come to this country, they come for a purpose. What's the purpose? We must look at what our mining laws say. Who made those laws? Who left those laws here? During the colonial times, remember, we were given independence and the law by the colonial masters. So when they left, when they left their law. So when they left their law, when they come back, under what law are you engaging with them?
The law they left you.
The law they left you. Now you got the answer. So in order for us to engage with the former colonial masters at our level, we must revisit the law.
But isn't this
the law that they left?
The law that
because they know that law far much better than you.
But isn't it the same law when we, as a country, try to change a few sections of the law? Again, we cry out to say, hey,
No. Let's distinguish. Zambia Must Prosper is not worried about the political laws. We're worried about the economic laws.
How are they different?
Land law, that's the economy. 2, banking laws, commerce and trade laws, mining laws. Those are the laws we must look at. Immigration laws.
But they are made by politicians.
Yes, but I'm saying the things that affect the economy. Split hairs.
Okay. So
the political laws, the constitution, what if I'm not bothered about that. I'm more worried about what puts food in your tummy. Okay. What helps the poor woman.
So in this regard, I would want you to elaborate to someone that would understand out there your vision for Zambia. Zambia Must Prosper. The name itself is selling out there. But what's a vision for Zambia Must Prosper? Break it down.
I thought I told you a bit. The 5 areas which I spoke about, where we're going to start off as a political party. Those 5 pillars, once you attack them, the economy becomes easier. Let me give you an example. Today, our government has borrowed a lot of money from our banks. Under what laws have they borrowed that money? The Muzungu laws. You understand? Play with those laws. 3/4 of what we fail to do as Zambians, as Africans, we lose at the negotiating table. Because we don't understand the thinking of a Muzungu. A Muzungu thinks 100 years from now. We think next week. The reason why Wakaunda sent us to school is to educate us, to understand the Muzungu. The one who left us these laws, the economic laws we're talking about. So how we attack that is go and say, for example, if a person wants to come into Zambia, to come and own some land here, there must be rules of engagement. You can't go to America as a Zambian and go and pick up 25,000 hectares of land, can you?
But they're coming
as
investors.
No, you can't. Even if they come as investors, there must be rules, regulations, under which we give them that land. You can't give an investor a 100-year lease. No. But they left those laws. So they come here, they apply those laws against you because they know that's the law they left with you. Okay. When you go out there, go and tell them, you're here, for example, we can only give you 25 years. In these 25 years, we want to see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If we don't see them, we get our land back. You think they won't stay? Okay. They'll stay. Why? They still want the copper. They still want the cobalt, the lithium, the gold. They want all these minerals. Their industries are hungry. They are yearning for our minerals. So we change the game. If you just leave it carte blanche, they walk in and out. Quiver.
Then in terms of power?
Same thing. Same thing.
Well, as a country, maybe now the situation might have stabilized in terms of power, but others must still be experiencing some power outage.
You mean electricity?
Yes.
It hasn't stabilized. It hasn't stabilized for 2 reasons. One, the power outages that you are seeing have got reasons. And one of the major reasons is because ZESCO, which generates our power, doesn't control the power.
Who controls the power?
The politicians. ZESCO is not run like a business. No, we must run it like a business.
Does that tell when you are in power it will run as a business?
Yes.
How are you going to separate it from politics? Because you definitely need some control. How are you going to separate it from politics?
A parastatal, by its own nature, is controlled at arm's length distance by the government. That's normal. That's the definition of a parastatal. But it must have a business sense. You can't, for example, over-employ at ZESCO because you want to give cadres employment. You're
Cadres,
eating.
not citizens?
The problem we have with the successive governments we've had is they've looked at cadres. So they flood ZESCO with cadres, sometimes not even qualified. That's a problem.
So do you say they are cadres or they are citizens of this country?
They are citizens, but they are cadres because they come with an incline of a political party.
Okay. And then, like, youth participation in politics. This is 2026.
Yes.
In August, we are going to election.
Right.
And there are some manipulation. Politicians, you don't manipulate youth for your power gain when you get into power. How are you going to make sure, like, youths are really participating in politics in best wise way, but also as a way of improving governance of this country as an election year?
Well, first of all, as Zambia Must Prosper, we believe in the youth. We have very many avenues where youth's energy can be directed, and it will be directed. One of the first things we want to do with the youths, most importantly, is to give them space where they can engage, and also to give them space where they can engage with us and make sure leadership is built. If you look at the first government, the Kaunda government, only 2 people, I think, if my memory serves me right, were above 40. Bakapwepwe na Bakaunda.
That was the start.
The rest were below that age. So, you do need the experience, yes, but the Zambian population is generally youth. So you must begin to build leadership so that they get interested in politics and in decision making. So we have invited a lot of our youth. In Zambia Must Prosper, the party is divided into 3. The main body, the Women's League, and the Youth League. The reason why we have the Youth League is because we want to raise leaders and we want them to join the mainstream as they qualify.
And then Zambia's politics, let me just say politics is these days, it's highly commercialized. You go there at least to get something. How should youths engage on such grounds? Like, I'll give an example. I want you, when you become to power, you give me this position somewhere, and I'm qualified for that, but I don't have an opportunity to go out there. How should youths engage or envision politics away from the commercialized aspect?
Zambia Must Prosper is going to run a meritorious government. By meritorious government, we mean 1, you're a Zambian. 2, you must be qualified for the job that you want. And those will be our guiding principles. It doesn't matter which political party you come from, we'll give you employment. You're a Zambian. There has been this tendency by the successive governments to look at rewarding the cadres. We believe in Zambia Must Prosper that there's the political area, there is the technocrats, and then there's the cadres. So if you divide your employment strata in that regard, you know where to put the cadres. You know where to put your technocrats, civil servants, the people that run industry, the people that run the government. Don't interfere with that. The people that come up with policy, the politicians, that's different. And that's what we're going to do. Because as a good leader, you must think, this is my cadre. He's very good. He's not very qualified, but I know where to place him. But don't bring him here. Don't even bring him here. For example, in the civil service, people begin from here with degrees, master's degree, etc., but they build careers. You're going to discourage civil servants if you're going to be having too many people come and become permanent secretaries, coming from outside to join a ministry. People who don't know how the ministry runs. for example. I'm not saying it's not usual, but it'd be wrong for me to have every permanent secretary to come from Zambia Must Prosper. No.
So
The civil service have got grades. Assistant director, directors. People are expecting to be promoted to be permanent secretary. Those are the people who know the systems of how government runs. Encourage them, promote them, and separate the politics from the government.
But why is it really difficult to separate politics from government? It looks like one and the same thing.
No, it's not. Government can run without politics. Politics cannot run without government.
What's the purpose then of having politics government can run without?
Because the politicians come with policy. The government has got systems. For example, whether it is UPND, PF, MMD coming into government, the procurement rules are the same. Those are systems. So whoever comes into government as a political party must come and study these rules. Who best to interpret these rules than the people who already know those rules? Leave the civil service alone. Don't mix. But you can say, we think because of what's happening now, the policy has to be aligned like this. Then the civil servants will tell you, okay, boss, if you want it done like this, to suit these rules, just modify it to be like this. Then I can do what you want me to do. That's how the civil service must work. And that is best practice.
So as a party, how are you ensuring that young people are actually protected from exploitation by politicians, especially that this is an election?
Well, right now we've already put in place a lot of areas of involvement with the young people, especially those in Zambia Must Prosper. We've given them positions, but we've also asked them to go and learn how to engage in politics. So they're already learning, and they'll be ready by August.
From top of your head, how many people do you have as a party, registered party members?
From the provinces, the 10 provinces?
Well, anyway, just briefly. It doesn't have to be accurate.
I'll be lying if I give you a number, but off the top of my head, all the structures are fulfilled. I'll give you a thinking figure. In every position, in every structure, we have 72 members. So at the province, we've got 72 members. At the district, 72 members. These are structures. Constituency, 72. Ward branch, multiplied. So across the country like that, if you multiply, we're in millions plus.
So others might argue that your proposal, the Zambia Must Prosper, these are just mere rhetorics that any political party that wants to get into power sends out or proposes to the people.
No.
Are they practical solutions?
Yes, they are practical. I mean, when you've been around politicians and governments, leaders, as long as I have, you know that you should never take people for granted. And that's one of my very serious philosophies. I never take people for granted. I never want to lie to people. If you and I agree on something, I'll never go back on it. I'll shake hands. If we have to come and change, I'll call you back and say, circumstances have changed. Can we improve this? That's me. So it's not rhetoric, no. What comes out of my mouth as KBF, what will come out of my mouth as KBF as president, that's policy. But it will also be my word against your word. And we have to bond. And that's life.
Yeah, this is on record. Then if
and I'm
Mr.
saying,
Bwalya
quote
here
me.
becomes president,
Quote me.
please.
Yes.
Let's play this back and say, you said this.
Yes.
Because we, right now, if we played clips, even the sitting president, there's sometimes would say this, and that, but now it's like...
This is where I want you to distinguish myself and the current president. I don't want to talk about the current president too much, because you can go back in the clips and you know that he's lied, isn't it?
No,
we can. I'm telling you, we can all agree here that Hakainde Hichilema is a liar. Okay. Yes, and I know that for a fact.
Those are the words of the Zambia Must Prosper president.
And
let's have a disclaimer to that. This is a political space.
I have said that on record, on just not this fora, everywhere else. We have a lying president in State House today. That's a fact. And the clips prove it.
Yeah.
things he had said before, he denies them today. I'm not like that. You are talking about rhetoric. I'm trying to prove to you that that's not me. When I say something to you, I mean it.
Okay.
That's that's the way any reasonable politician must run his life. So that tomorrow you don't have to lie. You say, this is what I'm going to do. If you can't do it, Bazulu, you go back and say, Mbuya, Kajakantu. I think, let's say, and it's good to admit when you can't do something. The problem we have with the current leadership is, even when you show them this, they'll even tell you, the AI, but we know when I was there when you were saying this.
Okay.
Why are you trying to lie? I heard you say it.
Okay.
Like, I didn't promise 50 kwacha minimum. We know he did. He even has his vice president, Kapembwana Lumango, to go on the floor of parliament to say, no, did we promise? Did we promise? You said it. Okay. It's on record. But you can't do it. You understand? So just say, well, Zambians are forgiving people.
So in this case, like, those were some of the things, areas that would touch land, mining, power. What are your commitments that you can look in the camera and say, like, when it comes to this, whatever, like, you can categorically say, when I get into power, this will be here or this will be there. Straightforward.
One of the major areas of concern for Zambia Must Prosper is we want to be a government, to be remembered as a government that created employment. Quote me on that. Employment creation will be a policy, it will be a principle, it will be legislated, and we'll push that agenda. Reducing the cost of living for the Zambian people, that we shall push. I am not going to sit here and tell you petrol will cost this, fertilizer will cost that,
you don't want to do
no. The reason is, sometimes in life, people get desperate. Like Aga in the Ichinema got desperate. So he got so desperate to get into State House, he started lying to excite the Zambians. Be real. We are going to reduce the cost of living. We're going to improve your standard of living. But we can't put figures on it because no economist will tell you that. Circumstances change. Weather patterns change. So you can't project those things until you're in office. But it will reduce. We know, for example, where we're going to source our petrol. And we know, for example, that we're not going to give monopoly sourcing of our diesel to one person called Agrofuels, Shashi Patel. We can't do that. It's a risk. It's even a security risk against the country. Who does that?
But we have the oil industries. It's controlled by the major powers in the world. Yes. Do we have the capacity to bargain on the power of... Bazulu.
Let me say this. You know a country called Venezuela? It has some of the biggest oil deposits in the world.
And we see what's happening.
But it's a broke country. Do you agree? Right now, their leader has been snatched and taken to America. Do you agree? Those are facts.
Yes.
Correct. So it is not about whether or not you can't negotiate. You can. It's a question of how you trade. For example, if a certain country called A has got oil, but it doesn't have lithium, you hear that? Can't you trade? They need the lithium for their batteries, for the electric cars. We need the oil. Why not trade?
So just give a classic example of Venezuela, right? If you want to negotiate, you see like there are certain countries that have got power more than the other, regardless of the bargaining table. Like, how should Zambia be interacting economically or in terms of trade with major powers? We talk about the US, China, Russia. Yeah.
Our forefathers historically have given us a history. We shall be a non-aligned country. Zambia must prosper. That philosophy, that foreign policy continues. We will not choose the West or the East, but we will trade with everybody. And we shall trade with whichever partner makes the Zambian lives better.
Are we still on that trajectory of Zambia should not be aligned to any?
Yes.
Okay.
Because for the same reason that you're trying to point out, we don't have the economic muscle, we don't have the military muscle to align to any of our feuding friends. We just be in the middle. We trade with this. If this is good coming from China, we go and trade with China. If this is good coming from the West, we go and trade with the West. That's how life is.
And those that argue that China's penetration in Africa is too much, and they might take control, and we see like most of the things that are dying in Zambia here, it's China. Like, how do you look at it from a political point of view?
The West, for me, if that's your direct question, the West, for me, must change its approach. They mustn't come with this imperialistic, colonialistic kind of thinking that their forefathers came with. Africa has changed. Things have evolved. I'll tell you for a fact, China has never colonized any African country. Russia has never colonized any African country. All they want to do is trade as partners. That's the kind of respect the Africans want now. Our forefathers, like Kwame Nkrumah in Ghana, okay? Our leaders like Muammar Gaddafi and the others who've been assassinated, Patrice Lumumba in the Congo here, assassinated during those days, were assassinated because they saw neocolonialism returning to Africa. But at that time, the circumstances were not correct. So they saw in the future and wanted to implement too quickly. They were gotten rid of. You have seen what is happening now in Burkina Faso. There's a young man there called Traoré. Yes. That's the trajectory Africa must move on. The Sahel countries are coming together now because they realize this which we have, the West needs, but they can only come to us on our terms now. And the West is beginning to see that.
And those like the Sahel countries would be accused of, the most governments are like military taken. So,
but you see, this is where sometimes I laugh at you journalists. I was giving an example during an interview the other day. After Chairman Mao died, the next president who went and ruled China said this, and I love that man because he's the one who led the Chinese revolution to economic prosperity. He said, I don't care what color the cat is, black, white, brown, as long as it can catch mice, I will let the cat do its work. I'm repeating it here. In this situation which Africa finds itself, I don't care what economic model you apply for Africa. As long as it reduces the cost of living for my people, I'll apply it. I don't care who I trade with. As long as it reduces the cost of living for the Zambians, I'll apply it. And I don't need another country to tell me who to trade with. That's wrong. We don't tell them who to trade with. No. For example, Donald Trump came into office, and he's our big brother, you understand? And he started imposing tariffs on everybody, including his European allies. You see what the global trade has become now? It's a war. It's an economic war.
And then
Zambia cannot afford that. So we don't go into that space. We just trade with whomever, as long as it works for Zambia.
So give an example of the US, the restriction on visa for people coming, the Zambian citizen here. Like, where does that put Zambia on, considering the American restriction on visa?
You must do your investigative journalism. The reason why America is imposing all these restrictions on Zambia is because of the corruption. They've noticed that corruption in Zambia has gone up 600% from 2021 to now. This UPND government is corrupt. Americans have the index. They know. When they donate medicines, you may not know this, the Americans carried out this as their own investigation. They went round pharmacies to buy medicine, which was donated. They found it in pharmacies being sold with labels not for sale.
And they would argue that
that is why you're being punished as a country. This country is not poor, but we must not abuse the generosity of the taxpayers of America. When they donate, it's free. This government of the UPND has got rotten eggs. They're selling that medicine. So the Americans are saying no. If you heard the American ambassador, Michael Gonzalez, then, he said 1 corruption has gone up. 2, we're reducing or removing the $50 million aid that we give you for medicines such as tuberculosis, HIV, and AIDS, etc. Why? Because you're not running the economy the way we want. He's also on record as having said $3 billion has taken flight out of this country since the UPND came into power. This is also in the FIC report.
So is it about
$3 billion. And yet we're borrowing $1.3 billion from the IMF. Can't you see the disparity there? It's a corrupt government, man.
So is it about the government or people that are in the system?
It's the same government. It's the same people. Azul, why are you trying to split hairs?
Because another argument would come like a Zambia system, especially the registration, whatever, the national registration, it's kind of porous and weak to monitor, and maybe a foreigner would come and get the NRCNs. So is it about the one in power or it's about the system that's in?
It's both.
Okay.
It's both.
And how are we going to ensure
the people and the systems.
How are we going to answer
any leader who comes into power? Go back 2 steps where I started off. These laws were left by the colonialists. The time they gave us these laws, the circumstances were not the same. So even the laws must be changed to suit the circumstances. Immigration laws, for example, Donald Trump has come into office, okay, and he says, this immigration law is not working for us. We're going to apply it this way. Now you see ICE agents on the ground, physically visiting house to house, checking how many immigrants are in the country. Do they have papers? Who are they? Where have they come from? Etc. So he's enforcing the law. A woman was shot just last week in Minnesota by an ICE agent, an American, for trying to block an ICE agent, according to them. You understand? That's how seriously they want to enforce this. So we've got an immigration law which we inherited from our colonial masters, and we're still applying it in that manner. No. If the Americans, for instance, decide that for me to visit America, I need to have $15,000 left at the US Embassy before I go, international law tells me I should do the same. What did the Namibian president do? She did the same. Reciprocal. This is how you want to treat our people? Same for you.
Okay.
So
we must go.
It's tit for tat.
Okay.
Yes.
And then in terms of human rights in Zambia, where are we from a legal perspective?
That's a very difficult question. But I must say that the UPND government has failed lamentably on the rule of law. You've seen how they've played around with the Constitution. You've seen how they've affected Bill 7, how the president can proudly go to Southern Province or wherever he was and tell the Zambian public, I've dribbled them on Bill 7, as if it's something to be proud of. No, those are reckless statements. A president must not talk about the Constitution like he's talking about his own porridge or his own child eating porridge. No, this is the groomed norm of this country. We must respect it. And I want to put it on record here that as Zambia Must Prosper, Bill 7 will be one of the laws we shall revisit once we get into power. When
you say revisit, you are a legal practitioner, you know what needs to be changed or what needs to be done. What exactly are you going to point out there?
The Constitutional Court ruled that Bill 7 is illegal. It was an illegitimate law. It should not have graced the floor of Parliament. So whatever went through there, we'll just use the constitutional law judgment.
Okay. And then the alliances. How are you feeling as a party with the alliances?
No, we're fine now. I mean, the alliance, I'm sure you're talking about the Tonse alliance.
Well, are you thinking of joining any other alliance?
Which other alliance is there to join Brazil? There's only Tonse now. You've seen what we've done in Chawama.
Is that going to continue?
That's Tonse.
Okay.
Yes, we are not joining any other alliance. There's no other alliance to talk about.
Then you said something like end of January you have the, what do you call?
The Congress.
The Congress.
Yes, we're going to have a Congress to elect leaders for Tonse because we have been trying to be patient with some of the people that were in Tonse before. I think we realized that time has gone and some of our friends were trying to make it seem like, you know, they could waste our time. The Zambians are waiting for leadership. The Zambians are waiting for direction. Some of our friends who were in Tonse previously, for example, I don't mean this in a bad way, but we heard statements by people say, PF is Tonse, Tonse is PF. No. I could never accept that.
But let
me explain. The reason for that is you've got a conglomerate of 9 political parties. You can't name them, all of them, to be PF. They're not. No. You may be bigger, but that doesn't make you disrespect the other political parties. This is an alliance. And we must work together. We must put our resources, our energies together. Now, when you begin to talk like that, that smells of arrogance. It smells of pomposity. It smells of a sense of entitlement. We can't have that. When you come in an alliance, you're partners. It's like your body, Wazulu. The eyes cannot say, I'm more important because I see. No. The nose will say, but I smell. But I help you breathe.
That's human.
The mouth, no. In politics, we must learn to respect each other when we come to the table. Because if you don't, you're going to sow seeds of discontent. We don't need that. And I'm very glad to report the Zambians that those are some of the considerations we took when we pushed away our brothers in PF. We said, Vane, go and sort out your business with Chavinga. When you've sorted out whatever you're doing, you will find us.
What will be the rules of engagement now in the Tonse Alliance?
We're going to set them up.
Okay.
And some of them we've set up. For example, we're going to the Congress by the 31st of January. Those who want to vie for the presidency of Tonse, 50,000 kwacha is the fee. And then we're going to do some voting. Some other rules will be set up and given to the Electoral Commission within the Tonse. We've got a commission of the Electoral Commission in Tonse.
And we're just coming a few weeks from when the Archbishop Alick Banda was summoned to the ACC. I would want you to comment both from a political point of view and also a legal point of view about his summoning to the
One
ACC.
of the few examples, sad examples, one can give about bad governance by the UPND is Dr. Archbishop Alick Banda. That particular case, the manner in which it's been handled and the disrespect to the Catholic Church generally and to the Archbishop of Lusaka in particular, that's a very bad example.
How is it a disrespect?
The Archbishop, with the greatest respect to the law enforcement agencies, is not in business. The Archbishop sits in his cathedral or in his office and he receives a gift from a well-wisher or a donation from whoever. Is that his problem?
Where is the problem then?
The problem is, why is he being asked about a gift that he just received? And you're making it seem like the Archbishop is involved in money laundering. It can't work, Wazulu. The Archbishop has no right to ask you, when you go and make your offering on Sunday, before you put this money in the basket, where did you get the money from? Before you make a tithe, where did you get the money from? Before you receive it. These are innocent end users. Why would you be asking that? Even the charade around how the summons was given, how he's wanted just before New Year. No, come to deck, like he's a common criminal. Respect.
So
we are Africans. The Drug Enforcement Commissioner, Nelson Banda, claims to be a Catholic. That's his Archbishop.
But
he should have just gotten up, if he wanted a statement from the Archbishop, and go and interview him privately. We didn't need to know. This whole act was turned into a political charade. That's not how you treat an Archbishop. That's total disrespect. We as Zambia Must Prosper will never disrespect the church. Speaking for myself, I've grown up in the church. I'm not Catholic. My wife is Catholic. But I'm from United Church of Zambia. But I've grown up in the church. I know how to respect the men of the cloth. That's not how you treat an archbishop. No. No. That's a no-go area. So they call the archbishop. They ask him questions and he doesn't want to speak. And then what? Then what?
So what does the law say in such instance if you needed to call him for an investigation or something?
First of all, there was no need to call him. I'm repeating this, Mumfwe Zulu. Maybe you didn't follow the circumstances under which it was done. Initially, when the archbishop received that motor vehicle, he was told, this vehicle that you have received is under investigation. Surrender it. He surrendered it willingly, freely, using his legal team. Government has got that motor vehicle. Some people were prosecuted for that motor vehicle. There have been convictions on that issue. That case is closed. Then you go and call the archbishop. For what? That motor vehicle was an exhibit in court. I'm a lawyer. Okay. It's not even in his hands. It was in the hands of the court and then released to government. And then you go and call him and say, come and answer for this motor vehicle. Come on.
So what relationship should a country or a state build with a church?
Respect. Mutual respect. Historically, biblically, any king always had a spiritual leader who advised the king. And most times, the politician who was the king respected the spiritual leader. Because the spiritual leader was able to speak truth to this power because of the spiritual authority that he had. You may not know this biblically, but in biblical times, it was the spiritual leaders that chose the politician who became kings.
So in this case, like in the case of Archbishop Alick Banda, what consequences would follow as a nation or in politics, the relationship we're creating?
Well, first of all, he's an archbishop of a diocese called Lusaka. He's an appointee of the Vatican. So he's directly appointed by Rome. So his office doesn't come from Zambia anymore. He may be a Zambian citizen, but he's responsible and he reports to Rome. So we must be very careful what our relationship is as a country, Zambia, with the Vatican. It may be a small country, but it's a very powerful country. We must be careful.
What are potential consequences that you're able to see that if this isn't handled properly, we might be?
No, I don't want to speculate, but let's just assume that we need to correct that. Okay. It's not something we need to prolong. No. We've made a mistake as a country. Let's correct it. Let's go for the correct people. If there was any criminality, follow the criminals, but not the archbishop. No.
As we are winding up the conversation on political space, it was interesting to host Kelvin Fube Bwalya. Forgive me, I'm from Eastern. So
I know. No, Buya, we know.
Before we go, please look into that camera and one word for a person that will see this. A word that you have for Zambian, a viewer, a youth, a woman, a man.
All I can say to the youths, to the women of Zambia, hope is here. We're giving you hope. And we're promising that when we get into power, the cost of living will come down, the standard of living will improve, and we as Zambia Must Prosper will look forward to serving you with dignity and honor.
When you say standard of living, what exactly are you looking at?
The barometers that they use in the economic index, the banking system, the value of the kwacha. Real value, not this kwacha dollar which the government is currently playing with. No. Real production, export of goods, earning of foreign exchange, our kwacha improves, our gold reserves improve. That is real business.
Okay. What do you do outside politics?
I'm a businessman.
Okay.
I've got a farm. I may not have as many farms as some people, but at least I've got enough to feed them.
You seem to be speculating as many farms as some people. Which people, me or the crew? Okay.
Maybe some of your cameramen, the commercial farmers, you know.
Yeah.
Me, I've only got one. So,
okay.
Yeah, that's where I keep my goats, my sheep, my chicken, my ducks, my fish.
Okay.
I'm a poor man. I'm just a humble little lawyer.
Okay.
So that's who I am.
All right.
Yes.
Thank you so much, and this is the end of the 3rd episode of the Political Space, and you are with me, Webster. And today's conversation, we're hosting Kelvin Fube Bwalya at his residence here, the business residence.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Until next time, remember to subscribe to Political Space on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, formerly known as X. With me, Webster. Until next time, bye-bye for now.
Chabwino Mbuya, Chabwino.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good.
Chabwino.
And I have a small present here, just a ball pen and a water glass.
Oh.
Please take a picture of us.
Imwe, kopeni tuma present tutu. Twaite It's a pen.
Yes.
There's no poison, eh?
Yeah, there's no poison. There's poison, Sezulu. Oh, yeah.
Who's taking photos?
That's one.